Welcome to Minute Docs, your one-stop channel for insightful analysis and thought-provoking content. Today, we're taking a leap into a topic that's been stirring global conversations. Is India heading towards dictatorship? With its rich history and diverse culture, India has always been a fascinating subject for socio-political studies. As the world's largest democracy, it has been a beacon of hope for many emerging nations. But recent reports suggest a shift in this narrative. Is the beacon dimming? Are the democratic values it upholds being compromised? These questions and more are what we aim to explore in today's episode. So sit tight, keep an open mind, and join us on this journey as we unravel the intricate layers of India's democratic fabric. Let's get started. Is the world's largest democracy drifting towards dictatorship? A question that's been echoing in the chambers of global discourse. To understand this, let's first unpack what we mean by democracy and dictatorship. Democracy, at its core, is a system of government by the people, for the people. It's a system that thrives on the freedom of expression, respect for human rights, and the rule of law. Dictatorship, on the other hand, is characterized by a single person or a small group holding absolute power, often leading to suppression of dissent and curtailment of freedoms. Now, why are we asking this question? Recent concerns have been raised by various international bodies about the state of democracy in India. Institutions like Freedom House, V-Dem Institute, and the Economist Intelligence Unit have voiced concerns, downgrading India's democracy status. These reports have sent ripples across the globe, raising eyebrows and questions alike. But what does this mean for India, a country that prides itself on being the world's largest democracy? Let's delve deeper into this issue. India, known as the world's largest democracy, is now under scrutiny. A nation that prides itself on being the birthplace of the ancient Indus Valley civilization, a country that has given the world influential philosophies of non-violence and spiritual enlightenment, now finds itself at a crossroads. India, with its population of over 1 billion, stands tall as the world's largest democracy. Its democratic roots run deep, having been a republic since 1947, when it gained independence from British rule. The Indian Constitution, one of the world's longest written constitutions, affirms its commitment to upholding democratic values. It guarantees its citizens fundamental rights, including freedom of speech and expression, the right to equality, and the right to constitutional remedies, among others. However, recent reports have raised concerns about the state of democracy in India. International organizations such as Freedom House, the V-Dem Institute, and the Economist Intelligence Unit have downgraded India's democracy status. They cite reasons such as curtailed freedom of expression, restricted civil liberties, and alleged human rights violations. These reports suggest that India, once a shining beacon of democracy, may be veering towards a path less democratic, but it's not all one-sided. The Indian government has been quick to defend its democratic credentials. It dismisses these reports as biased and maintains that the country's democratic practices remain robust. They argue that the very fact that such debates and criticisms can take place testifies to the vibrancy of Indian democracy. However, the Indian government strongly disagrees with these assessments. The Indian government stands firm in its belief of robust democratic practices. In response to the downgrading of its democratic status, the government has presented a strong rebuttal. It argues that such reports fail to capture the essence of Indian democracy, which thrives on diversity, dissent, and debate. The government emphasizes that it is committed to upholding the Constitution, ensuring the rule of law, and safeguarding citizens' rights. The government underscores that its democratic systems are deeply entrenched and resilient. It cites the regular and successful conduct of elections, the functioning of legislative bodies, and the independent judiciary as evidence of the robustness of its democratic practices. The government also points to the vibrant civil society and free press as crucial components of its democracy. It dismisses the allegations of heading towards dictatorship as misleading and biased. It challenges the methodology and credibility of these reports, suggesting they are influenced by political motivations and lack a nuanced understanding of Indian democracy. Yet the public opinion seems to diverge. What do the people say about the current political climate in India? This question echoes throughout the nation, reverberating in the hearts and minds of its citizens. The answer, like India itself, is diverse and multifaceted. Often, we find that the pulse of a nation is best gauged by its people. So let's delve into the public's perception of the political climate. On one side of the spectrum, we find a section of society that stands firmly in support of the current government. They believe in the government's vision of a new India, a vision that promises progress, prosperity, and nationalistic pride. However, on the other side of this spectrum, there is a growing concern. Concerns about the erosion of democratic values and the curbing of dissent. Voices that question the government are often labeled as anti-national, a term that has become a tool to suppress opposition and dissenting voices. Then there are those in the middle, the undecided, the confused. They watch the unfolding political drama with a mixture of apprehension and hope. Their voice, often lost in the cacophony of polarizing debates, questions the path India is treading. The youth, the future torchbearers of the nation, are particularly vocal. Student protests and youth-led movements have become increasingly prevalent, signifying a generation that is not afraid to question and challenge the status quo. They demand transparency, accountability, and the upholding of democratic values. The voice of the people is thus a symphony of diverse opinions, hopes, and fears. It's a reflection of a nation in flux, grappling with change and uncertainty. But one thing is clear: the conversation is ongoing, the dialogue is open, and the people are engaged. The role of the media has also been a subject of debate. As the fourth pillar of democracy, how it shapes and presents these voices to the world is a question we'll explore in our next segment. In a democracy, the media plays a crucial role. It acts as the fourth pillar, standing alongside the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive. But what happens when this pillar is threatened? In India, a vibrant media landscape has historically been a testament to its democratic ethos. However, recent years have seen growing concerns over the state of media freedom. Journalists are facing censorship, intimidation, and even violence for expressing dissent or exposing uncomfortable truths. The role of media in a democracy is not just to report the news, but also to question, challenge, and hold power to account. In a healthy democracy, media serves as a watchdog, a platform for debate, and a means to inform citizens, enabling them to make informed choices. Yet, in India, it is becoming increasingly challenging for the media to fulfill this role. Journalists who dare to question the status quo are often labeled as anti-national or anti-state. This has created a climate of fear, where self-censorship becomes the norm to avoid reprisals. In addition, the rise of fake news and misinformation has further complicated the media landscape. When media outlets are used to spread propaganda rather than factual information, it undermines the very essence of democracy. Moreover, the concentration of media ownership in the hands of a few corporations raises questions about the impartiality of news and the diversity of voices and opinions. This lack of media pluralism can lead to a distorted public discourse, further eroding democratic practices. The chilling effect of these threats to media freedom extends beyond journalists. It impacts every citizen's right to freedom of expression and access to information. When the media is muzzled, it is the public that loses its voice. In the end, a democracy without a free and independent media is like a vehicle without wheels. It may have the semblance of motion, but it's going nowhere. And that's why the state of media freedom in India is a cause for concern, not just for journalists, but for all who believe in the principles of democracy. Concerns extend beyond the media, affecting civil liberties and human rights. Civil liberties and human rights form the bedrock of any democracy. They guarantee the inherent dignity and worth of each individual, regardless of their background. Unfortunately, in recent times, India has seen a concerning trend of alleged decline in these liberties and rights. Critics point to the treatment of minorities and activists as an area of significant concern. There have been numerous reported incidents where activists have faced intimidation, harassment, and even arrest. In particular, those advocating for the rights of marginalized groups are often the most targeted. Furthermore, the treatment of minorities, especially religious and ethnic ones, has become a contentious issue. Cases of discrimination, violence, and hate speech have been reported, raising questions about the state of human rights in the country. These developments, if true, could pose a serious threat to the democratic fabric of India. Now let's compare India with other nations facing similar accusations. Opening, how does India's situation compare to other democracies? As we delve into comparative analysis, it's essential to realize that India's current political situation isn't entirely unique. Many democracies, both neighboring and distant, have grappled with similar issues. Let's glance over at Pakistan, for instance, a neighbor that has oscillated between military rule and democracy. Or look at Myanmar, where the military overthrow of a democratically elected government has led to widespread unrest. On a global scale, countries like Hungary and Poland, despite being part of the European Union, have witnessed democratic backsliding. Hungary, under Viktor Orban, has seen a significant erosion of democratic institutions and freedoms. Poland, too, has faced criticism for undermining judicial independence and restricting freedom of the press. However, comparing India with these nations doesn't offer a definitive answer. Each country has its unique socio-political fabric that influences its democratic trajectory. But these comparisons do underline the universality of the challenges confronting democracies today. Closing, this brings us to the end of our discussion. We've covered a lot of ground today. We dove into the heart of India's democracy, the world's largest, and scrutinized the concerns raised by international organizations about its status. We listened to the Indian government's rebuttal, echoing its commitment to robust democratic practices, and we gave an ear to the voice of the people, their perceptions, and their apprehensions. We examined the role of media, the lifeblood of democracy, and the rising worries over censorship and intimidation. We delved into the complex world of civil liberties and human rights, focusing on the treatment of minorities and activists. We also drew comparisons with neighboring countries and other democracies that have faced similar allegations. This dialogue is a reminder that democracy is a living, breathing entity that thrives on active participation and constructive criticism. It is a call to stay vigilant, to question, to understand, and to engage. It's a call to you, to me, to all of us who believe in democratic values. Stay informed and participate in the democratic process, for the strength of democracy lies in its citizens. Before we wrap up this insightful journey, we'd like to take a moment to remind you of the power you hold as an informed citizen. Knowledge is the key to understanding, and understanding is the doorway to change. So continue to question, continue to learn, and continue to participate. And to help you stay informed, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Minute Docs. Here we delve into a myriad of topics, from global issues to local concerns, from historical events to future possibilities. With each video, we aim to enlighten, provoke thought, and stimulate conversation. So join us in this journey of learning and transforming. Click on the subscribe button below and let's make a difference, 1 minute at a time. Remember, every minute, every voice, and every subscription counts when it comes to shaping a more informed world.